And let me just go back to this from Court TV.
Not just one person. Let's talk about that defense theory. Let's bring back in our legal experts, Dave Ehrenberg and William Ehlenfeld. Dave, let me begin with you, please. Your thoughts on what the defense is seeking to do here?
Well, when you got nothing, you got to start creating something. I mean, they waited months before they could figure out an alibi for Bryan Kohberger, and it was that he was driving alone in the middle of the night looking at stars in his hardtop Hyundai. None of this makes any sense. You might as well just let my beagle do the closing argument, because they're just throwing anything at the wall. That makes about as much sense as an alternate suspect, right? How do they get Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath? How do you explain that? Some other guy set him up, planted it there, and then drove off in a Hyundai Elantra, which just happens to be Kohberger's same car. And of course, Kohberger can't explain where he was that night. No witnesses, no alibi for him. It doesn't make any sense. This guy did it. He's going down for it. I respect the defense lawyers for trying what they can, but the judge, you can see, is as skeptical as I am.
So, wow.
That was powerful.
That was pretty powerful. What do you think, Mike?
Bill, he's right. If there was a true alternative suspect, the police would have been investigating that all along. And we haven't heard about that whatsoever. And if there was a real alibi, remember the alibi witness that really never appeared? We heard about that after a while. So I'm a cynical old police officer. I don't believe half of what people say, especially defense attorneys. You and I and Phil have run into them many times. They'll tell you the moon is blue. So therefore, I like what the guy said. He's direct. He's sitting there. I'm laughing. I had a beagle years ago. Let the beagle talk, because Ann Taylor's closing, if that's going to be a passionate closing about what hasn't happened in this case, or how badly law enforcement dropped the ball in this case, go right ahead. That it's going to happen after the jury has heard all about the DNA and they've seen all the crime scene photos, those horrific photos of those kids slaughtered. They're going to be talking to DNA technicians. They're going to be talking to people from the FBI. There'll be people talking about the cell phone pings. So go right ahead. It won't do any good, I don't think, in this point.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, and I don't want to ad nauseum keep repeating, I think that the prosecution has very powerful evidence in this case, and more evidence than we've seen yet, because obviously because of the gag order, not all of the evidence has been released. So I think they have superb amount of physical evidence, circumstantial evidence to prove their case. Phil?
Yeah, with regard to the knife sheath, Billy, now people talking about it being planted, I mean, it's so ridiculous because you'd have to had planted it, gotten his DNA on it. And then when we look at his computer, he purchased a K-bar knife with the sheath. So they got into his computer and purchased it. There's just, it's so outlandish. But with regard to it being left behind, now, if we believe, and I think that the prosecution is going to bring this out, that Bryan Kohberger purchased some type of an overgarment, something like a mechanic's uniform or some type of a Tyvek suit. So with that said, the sheath is to protect the knife from cutting you unintentionally. And it also has a belt loop on it. So if you have that outer garment, perhaps there was no belt, he takes out the knife, and in the rage, he accidentally drops it. It was left behind by accident, by mistake. I talked about earlier that the adrenaline is flowing and it's pumping, but at some point it releases and you become exhausted. Perhaps he dropped it, didn't realize he dropped it, or forgot to pick it up. Whatever it was, he leaves the apartment. That was the biggest mistake that he made in this case, leaving that knife sheath with his DNA on it. I know there's going to be arguments about the collection of the DNA, whether it was transferred, all of these different things. But when you have all the other evidence that he purchased one not a few months before on his own computer, purchased it from Amazon, and then searched to buy another one after he realized that he left the sheath behind. So those points are going to be made. That's probably the most strongest piece of evidence in this case, lock, stock, and barrel.
Well, someone just asked, will they prove the evidence of the black mask in this case? And that's the black mask. And the black mask, they proved one thing, that it was purchased on Amazon. So, yeah, that's pretty powerful. In fact, Alexis, How will they prove the evidence of the black mask purchase online in court? Well, again, his Amazon purchases.
Yeah.
He purchased that black mask from Amazon. In addition, he purchased the K-bar knife, the knife sheath, and a sharpener on Amazon. So all of these things, again, some of you pro-burgers out there will say, oh, that doesn't prove anything. Okay. What we've been trying to teach you and sort of slam into our audience's heads is that circumstantial evidence, some people poo-poo it and say it doesn't mean anything. It means a hell of a lot. Circumstantial evidence from which inferences are drawn. This whole case is circumstantial. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, first I'd like to say thank you to Karen Cole for her wonderful comments. I appreciate that very much from across the pond. But yes, circumstantial evidence, all it requires is that as a juror, make a logical connection. The balaclava, the knife and the sheath, the Hyundai, the DNA, just what does that mean logically? What does that mean logically to a juror? That he had put his hand at some point, Bryan Kohberger grabbed that knife sheath. Boom.